Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Slcmof, and I do apologize for the Batman Arkham gameplay on a Spider-Man video. I know it's kind of like a crime, and I feel a little dirty about it. Not too bad, though, because of the fact that people do give me shit about it sometimes. But do keep in mind, I don't actually own a Marvel video game on next gen at the moment, as much as I loved the Spider-Man games on PS2, the recent ones I haven't played. So anyway, I do want to talk about the Spider-Man game that I will be buying in 2017, and that is Spider-Man PS4, being developed by Insomnic Games. And Insomniac Games, interestingly enough, had an Xbox One exclusive, so although there have been some complaints that this game is PS4 only, it does make sense, seeing the fact that PlayStation 4 is owned and created by Sony, and Spider-Man has a very complicated licensing deal, primarily held by Sony and not Marvel, so it does make sense that this game is only coming out on PlayStation 4, as unfortunate as it is. Anyway, not the point of this video. I want to talk about everything that we know for the game, in addition to a speculated or kind of estimated release date based upon the size of the studio we're dealing with, how long they've been working on the game, other marketing times that may be advantageous for them to release, aka, July when Spider-Man Homecoming comes out, and a little bit like that as well, and things of this sort. So let's talk about everything that we know for the game, and let's just start with a kind of trivial fact, I would say, and that is Spider-Man's suit. A lot of people have criticized of his suit having the big white Spidey logo on it, and the Insomniac Twitter actually confirmed that this is for a reason. Now, I'm assuming this will be of some sentimental value or some importance, but as per now, we don't know. But there's a whole rich history of Spider-Man in this universe, because it is unrelated to the MCU. It's unrelated to the origin story that we saw basically in Captain America Civil War, just a little bit of Spider-Man, because this does not take place in the MCU. It's not Tom Holland, nothing like that. It's totally separate. It's its own story. And as where Tom Holland is whatever he is, 15 or 16, taking Algebra 2, or in New York City, this Spider-Man is older. He's a veteran. He is a master of his craft, and this is vindicative of the gameplay, which we know is a very in-depth kind of parkour system, again comparable to that of which was in Sunset Overdrive in 2013, and it's going to be similar gameplay mechanics because of the fact that it's made by the same studio on the same exact engine that they're running this game on, was the engine in which Sunset Overdrive was ran on, with improvements, of course. So again, we sort of get to see Spider-Man as the master of his craft. He's been at it for a while, and I think it's fair to say that he's in his prime, much in the same way that Batman was in his prime for Batman Arkham Knight. So therefore, we're not going to have an origin story, and I'm very happy about this. I will say, if there's two things in the superhero genre of anything, movies or comics or games, that I'm maybe a little bit exhausted of, number one would be origin stories, and number two would be hero versus hero, especially with Civil War and BVS coming out. The latter is particularly a little bit cumbersome for me. I want to see heroes versus villains again, and it seems that by the Osborn for Mayor logo in the back here, we're going to get some great nods, and also some just presence of amazing villains in the Spider-Man PS4 game. Beyond the gameplay mechanics and the age of Spider-Man, we also learned that we're going to get a little bit more of a Peter Parker focused story, and as I've said many times, the main thing missing from comic book video games that doesn't represent comic books accurately is the disproportionate amount of time spent as the hero. So you look at a game like Batman Arkham City, where 99% of the game you're playing as Batman, and 1% of the game you're playing as Bruce Wayne. Well, there's virtually no comic books out in the world where you spend that much time with the mask, and so little time as the alter ego, not the alter ego, the real ego of that hero, whether it be Batman or Spider-Man or what have you. And it seems as though with these, future or upcoming, rather, not future, in the near future, upcoming games, that we're going to be getting a little bit more of that with Telltale's Batman, which is said to be pretty much a dead split, 50-50 with Bruce Wayne and Batman, which is just ecstatic for me as a huge fan of not only just Batman, but the character and the altruism of Bruce Wayne. But as per Spider-Man, we're going to get the same sort of thing here. Now, not a 50-50 split by any means, but definitely getting in a little bit more into Peter Parker's head and seeing him live his life. I always said, just have a 10-minute mission where we're playing as Peter Parker and we're delivering pizzas on our little moped. I mean, that would just be so awesome. Just like in the, I believe the second movie out of the trilogy, from the early 2000s. But anyway, something like that. I remember that scene in particular, and I feel as though it would fit perfectly into an open world world Spider-Man video game where we can truly feel as though we are, Peter Parker and Spider-Man. So this game is said and reported to be involving Peter Parker a little bit more than we've seen in the past. So let's talk a little bit about when we can actually expect this game. And Insomnic Games, via their Twitter, and they well, not to brag, but they do follow me. What can I say? No, seriously, what they basically said, well over a year is how long they've been working at the game, which is really, really exciting to me because I personally did not expect that. And well over a year, I interpret that to be roughly a year and a half, let's say. So Insomniac Games, not a small studio, as far as I'm aware, at least a few hundred. So you're looking at a pretty decently sized studio. It's not as small as Rocksteady, nor is it as big as Virtuous, who's making Batman Return to Arkham, but they're a decently sized studio, a very talented studio, might I add, of individual talent. And then you can look at basically their history of releasing games, and usually they'll spend no longer than 3 years making a game. And then we can look at the sort of marketing of when it would be ideal to release it. And at that point, I reached the conclusion, based upon the fact that they also proclaimed that they have no intent of showing a demo anytime soon. So, I would say late 2016 is unlikely, just in the fact that the games coming out in 2016 are probably already announced, whether that be, the Call of Duties or the Battlefields or the Battlefronts or whatever the hell's coming out this year. That's all going to be announced already. God of War, I think, comes out this year, maybe. I don't know. In fact, there's already games that are announced now that aren't coming out into 2017. So it's kind of too late to announce that you're releasing a game in 2016. With that being said, I think we can look at early to middle 2017, at which point they may be intent upon releasing the game in early 2017, but the game will almost inevitably get delayed just by the scale of a free roam, parkour, Spider-Man game in his prime with all these villains. I mean, that's a serious undertaking, especially in the fact that they'd only be developing the game for a little over 2 years at that point. Now, yes, they have a lot of resources going at the game, but I do feel as though they'll probably need more time than they are intent upon taking. So then you can kind of push it back to middle of 2017, which just not so conveniently parallels the release of Spider-Man Homecoming, which is going to be a massive film. I personally firmly believe they're going to go for a PG rating on it if they can get it. And that's just going to be a massive movie, and that is going to go hand in hand with the game, even if the games are not related. So as I mentioned, they're not even related in the slightest, and how old Peter Parker is, it's nothing similar. But you do have Spider-Man fans, albeit new Spider-Man fans, maybe seeing Spider-Man Homecoming for the first time. Spider-Man is the most popular superhero with younger kids especially, and they're going to be coming out of this, and they're going to want more. And, well, it's Marvel, so there's no animated movies to turn to like there is with DC or anything like that, and if there is, they're not very good. So then you can start looking at, games, and it would make sense for them to have the games parallel the release of the movie in this kind of symbiotic way, such as those that are video game fans will play the game and be interested in Spider-Man again, as they probably haven't been for years because there haven't been any good games, and then they'll want to see the movie and vice versa. So to me, it would seem from a marketing standpoint nothing but logical, if not feasible, that the game will parallel the release of the film. That would be in June or July, I can't exactly remember, middle summer 2017. That is my official guess. Again, I think that they're going to be trying to release the game as early as March, but it's just not going to work out, and that's okay. I want them to spend as much time as possible, and if the game doesn't come till late 2017, then that's what it is. But they are only developing for one console. That should cut down the time a little bit, that you don't have to port it over. And, overall, I don't expect them to take too long. I certainly don't think it'll be past 2018. If not, I think I'd be surprised if it goes past middle 2017. And it just would make so much sense if they released it that same month in July as Spider-Man Homecoming, and I have every belief that they'll do so by that point. So that's my speculation, guys, and everything that we know about Insomniac Spider-Man game. Again, it's a good bit away. There's a good bit of waiting left for us to do, but there's also a good amount of things to get excited about as well. So hope you guys have enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up, and we'll see you in the next one.